A fresh start in the wrong direction, Jasmine Parker stood in the middle of her new apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes that seemed to multiply rather than decrease. The November afternoon light filtered through the large windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. She wiped sweat from her forehead, regretting her decision to move without hiring professional movers. But after the breakup with Tyler 3 months ago, she needed to prove to herself that she could handle things alone. The apartment was perfect in every way. A cozy one-bedroom in downtown Seattle with exposed brick walls, a modern kitchen, and most importantly, it was affordable. The only quirk was the bedroom window that faced directly into the courtyard, offering a clear view of the building across from hers. Not that it mattered much. Jasmine was focused on rebuilding her life, not spying on neighbors. She spent the entire weekend unpacking, arranging furniture, and trying to make the space feel like home. By Sunday night, exhausted but satisfied, she collapsed into her new bed. The mattress was comfortable, the sheets smelled fresh, and for the first time in months, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The discovery Monday morning arrived with the sharp sound of her alarm at 6:30. Jasmine groaned, reaching over to silence it. She had a big presentation at work, and despite wanting to stay buried under the covers, she forced herself up. Stumbling toward the window, she reached for the curtains to let in some light. That was when she saw him. Across the courtyard, through a large window that matched hers almost exactly, stood a man. He was shirtless, holding a coffee mug, and staring out at the city with the kind of contemplative expression people have when they think nobody is watching. The morning light highlighted his athletic build, the defined muscles of his shoulders and arms. The way his dark hair was still messy from sleep. Jasmine froze, her hand still on the curtain. She should look away. Should give him privacy. Should definitely not be staring at a stranger's half-naked body first thing in the morning. But something about him seemed familiar. The way he stood, the angle of his profile, the gesture he made when he ran his hand through his hair. Then he turned slightly, her breath caught in her throat. Brandon Hayes, her childhood best friend. The boy who had lived 3 houses down from her in Portland. The teenager who had taught her how to ride a bike and later how to drive stick shift. The young man who had moved to Seattle for architecture school 8 years ago, and who she had slowly lost touch with as life got busy and complicated. Brandon Hayes was her neighbor. The morning routine over the next week. Jasmine discovered that Brandon had a very specific morning routine. Every day at 6:45, he would emerge from what she assumed was his bathroom, usually shirtless, sometimes in sweatpants, sometimes in pajama bottoms. He would make coffee, stand by the window for exactly 10 minutes while drinking it, then disappear back into another room. She told herself she was not watching him. She was simply getting ready for work at the same time he happened to be visible. It was coincidence, not intentional observation. But by Thursday, she had repositioned her dresser slightly to have a better angle. By Friday, she was setting her alarm 5 minutes earlier just to have more time. Jasmine felt guilty about it. She was not the kind of person who spied on people. But there was something mesmerizing about those quiet morning moments. Brandon looked different from the lanky teenager she remembered. He had filled out, grown into his features, developed the kind of confident presence that comes with age and success. She wondered about his life. Was he married? Dating? What kind of architecture did he design? Did he ever think about their friendship? About the way they used to stay up all night talking about their dreams? The towel incident Wednesday of the second week started like any other morning. Jasmine's alarm went off. She hit snooze once, then dragged herself out of bed. She moved to the window, pulling back the curtain with practiced casualness. Expecting to see Brandon's usual routine, what she saw instead made her gasp out loud. Brandon had just stepped out of his bathroom, but this time he was not wearing anything. No shirt, no sweatpants, nothing except water droplets sliding down his skin. He was completely, gloriously naked, apparently having forgotten to grab a towel before leaving the bathroom. Jasmine's brain short-circuited. She knew she should turn away, should give him privacy, should absolutely not be frozen in place with her eyes wide and her mouth slightly open. But her body refused to cooperate with her mind's increasingly frantic commands. Brandon seemed to realize his mistake. He looked down at himself, then toward his bathroom with an expression of amused frustration. Then, as if sensing something, his eyes lifted to the window. To her window, their gazes met across the courtyard. Time stopped. Jasmine's heart hammered against her ribs. Brandon's expression shifted from surprise to recognition to something else entirely. Something that looked like interest mixed with amusement. Then he smiled. Not a shy, embarrassed smile. A slow, deliberate smile that said he knew exactly what had been happening for the past 2 weeks. A smile that said he did not mind one bit. Jasmine jumped back from the window. So fast she tripped over a shoe and landed on her bedroom floor. Her face burned with embarrassment, so intense she thought she might spontaneously combust. Of all the mortifying moments in her 29 years of life, this topped the list. She spent the next 20 minutes hiding in her bathroom, trying to convince herself it was not as bad as it seemed. Maybe he had not really recognized her. Maybe the distance was too far for him to see clearly. Maybe she could just never open her curtains again and pretend this never happened. The unexpected. Jasmine was running late for work. Still flustered from the morning incident, when someone knocked on her door, she grabbed her purse and coffee mug, expecting it to be the building manager, about some maintenance issue. She opened the door and nearly dropped everything in her hands. Brandon Hayes stood in her hallway, now fully dressed in dark jeans and a fitted gray Henley that somehow looked even better than the shirtless version. He was holding 2 cups from the coffee shop downstairs and wearing that same knowing smile from earlier. "Hello, Jasmine," he said, his voice deeper than she remembered, with a warmth that made her stomach flip. "I thought we should probably talk about our morning situation." Jasmine opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. Her brain was still trying to process the fact that Brandon was standing at her door, that he knew she had been watching him, that he did not seem angry about it. "I brought coffee," he continued, holding up the cups. "A peace offering. Or maybe a conversation starter. Either way, I think we have some catching up to do." He leaned against her doorframe, completely comfortable, while she stood there feeling like her entire world had just tilted on its axis. The boy she had grown up with had become this confident. An attractive man who had just caught her watching him like some kind of stalker, and instead of being upset, he had brought her coffee. "How did you know which apartment was mine?" she finally managed to ask. His smile widened. "I've known for a week and a half. I asked the building manager. I was working up the courage to come say hello." Paused, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Though I admit the towel incident accelerated my timeline." Jasmine felt her face flame red again. "I can explain. Can you?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping lower. "Because I would really love to hear how you explain watching me every morning for 2 weeks." She should have been defensive, should have denied it or made excuses. But something about the way he looked at her, the gentle teasing in his voice, the fact that he was Brandon, her Brandon from childhood, made her tell the truth. "I did not mean to start," she admitted quietly. "That first morning, I just happened to see you. And then I realized it was you. And I guess I was curious about what your life had become, about who you had become." The teasing disappeared from his expression, replaced by something softer. "And what did you discover?" "That you wake up way too early," she said, attempting humor. "And that you really love coffee. And that you still do that thing where you run your hand through your hair when you are thinking. You remembered that." "I remember everything about you." Brandon, the words hung between them, loaded with years of history and unspoken feelings. Brandon's eyes searched hers, and Jasmine saw the exact moment when everything shifted. When friendship memories collided with present attraction. "I need to be honest with you," he said, his voice serious now. "I did not forget the towel this morning. I saw you watching last week and I wanted to see what you would do." Jasmine's eyes widened. "You did that on purpose?" "Guilty." He handed her one of the coffee cups. "I have been trying to figure out how to approach you for days. I was not sure if you would want to reconnect or if too much time had passed. Then I noticed you at your window every morning, and I thought maybe the universe was giving me a sign." She took the coffee, her fingers brushing against his. The contact sent electricity through her arm. "What kind of sign?" "That some connections do not fade just because time passes. That maybe there is a reason we ended up living across from each other." He paused, then added with a return of his playful smile, and that you apparently enjoy morning coffee and attractive neighbors. Despite her embarrassment, Jasmine laughed. It felt good to laugh, to stand here with someone who knew her history, who made her feel comfortable even in the most awkward situation possible. I really am sorry for watching you, she said sincerely. That was not okay. Do not be sorry. Ah! Brandon's expression turned serious again. Jasmine, I moved into this building 6 months ago. I have been having coffee by that window every single morning since then, but I only started doing it shirtless 2 weeks ago. Understanding dawned on her. You knew I moved in. The building manager mentioned a new tenant in your unit. I looked up the name on the lease. When I saw it was you, I decided to make myself a little more noticeable. I grinned. I just did not expect it to take 2 weeks before we actually talked. Jasmine shook her head, torn between amusement and disbelief. You are trouble, Brandon Hayes? And you, Jasmine Parker, are worth causing trouble for. He glanced at his watch. I know you are running late for work. So am I, actually. But can we have dinner tonight? Real dinner, where we sit across from each other fully clothed and catch up on 8 years? I would like that, she said, meaning it completely. 7 o'clock? I will pick you up right here. He started to walk away, then turned back. And Jasmine, you can keep watching from your window if you want. But I would rather you just come over next time. Preparing for the unknown, Jasmine spent the entire workday in a fog. Her colleagues noticed her distraction during the presentation, but thankfully attributed it to nervousness rather than the real reason, which was that she could not stop replaying the morning's events in her mind. Brandon Hayes, her childhood best friend, had deliberately staged that towel incident. He had known she was watching. He wanted her to watch. The implications made her head spin and her heart race in equal measure. By 5 o'clock, she practically ran out of the office. She had 2 hours to shower, change, mentally prepare herself for dinner with someone who had once meant everything to her. Someone who, if she was being honest, still held a piece of her heart, even after all these years apart. Standing in front of her closet, Jasmine debated between casual and dressy. This was Brandon, the boy who had seen her with braces and bad haircuts. But this was also the man who had stood naked in his window this morning with complete confidence. Finally, she settled on dark jeans and a soft blue sweater that brought out her eyes. Simple, but intentional. At exactly 7 o'clock, her doorbell rang. She took a deep breath, checked her reflection one last time, and opened the door. Brandon stood there holding a single sunflower, her favorite flower from childhood. He had remembered. He wore dark slacks and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and Jasmine's mouth went dry at the sight of him. You remembered, she said softly. Taking the flower, I remember everything about you two, Jasmine. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her shiver. Ready? Dinner and revelations. Brandon took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. The kind of place with checkered tablecloths, candles and wine bottles, and food that smelled like heaven. They were seated in a corner booth that felt intimate and private. I cannot believe we have been living across from each other for 2 weeks, and this is the first time we are actually talking, Jasmine said after they ordered. Technically, we have been communicating, Brandon teased, just non-verbally. Through windows, with varying degrees of clothing. Jasmine buried her face in her hands. Are we ever going to move past the towel incident? Eventually, but not tonight. He reached across the table, gently pulling her hands away from her face. His touch was warm, sending tingles up her arms. Hey, look at me, she did. His brown eyes were soft, understanding, with a hint of mischief that was pure Brandon. I am not embarrassed, he said firmly, and you should not be either. Life is too short for regrets, especially about something that brought us back together. When did you become so wise? She asked. Architecture school. They teach you about structure, foundation, and building things that last. He paused meaningfully. Turns out, those principles apply to more than just buildings. Their wine arrived, and they fell into conversation easily. Brandon told her about his architecture firm, the projects he was passionate about. The way he specialized in designing affordable housing that did not sacrifice beauty for functionality. Jasmine shared about her graphic design work, her recent promotion, and her breakup with Tyler. "He was not right for you," Brandon said simply after she finished the story. "You did not even know him. I did not need to." "I know you." He swirled his wine glass thoughtfully. "The Jasmine I grew up with would never be happy with someone who made her feel small. You always dreamed big, felt deeply, and needed someone who could match that intensity." The observation struck her because it was true. Tyler had been safe, comfortable, but ultimately unfulfilling. He had wanted her to be less passionate, less driven, more content with mediocrity. "What about you?" she asked. "The building manager mentioned you lived alone. No serious relationships?" Brandon's expression shifted slightly. "A few. Nothing that stuck." He met her eyes directly. "I think I have been comparing everyone to a memory I should have let go of years ago." Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. "What memory?" "You, us, the way we used to be." He set down his wine glass. "Do you remember the summer before I left for Seattle? You were 21. I was 23. We spent that entire August together before I moved. I remember, how could she forget? They had been inseparable that summer, and there had been moments when she thought something might happen between them. Moments when their friendship had felt like it was teetering on the edge of something more. The night before I left, we sat on your parents' porch until 3 in the morning, Brandon continued, and I almost kissed you. I wanted to so badly, but I convinced myself it would complicate things. That our friendship was too important to risk." Jasmine's breath caught. She had wondered about that night for years, wondered if she had imagined the charged atmosphere between them. "I wanted you to," she admitted quietly. "I spent that whole summer hoping you would." The truth comes out, their food arrived, but neither of them seemed particularly interested in eating anymore. The air between them had shifted, grown heavier with 8 years of unspoken feelings finally being given voice. "Why did not you say something?" Brandon asked. "Because you were leaving? Because I was scared. Because you were my best friend, and I could not bear the thought of losing you completely if things went wrong." She laughed without humor. "Turns out I lost you anyway. We just drifted apart." "That was my fault," he said firmly. "I let us drift because being your friend from a distance was easier than being near you and not being able to have you the way I wanted." Brandon. His name came out as barely a whisper. He reached across the table again, this time taking both her hands in his. His thumbs traced circles on her palms, and the simple touch made her entire body aware of him. "I have thought about you constantly for 8 years, Jasmine. I have dated other people, tried to move on, convinced myself that what I felt was just nostalgia for our friendship. Then 6 months ago, I saw your name on that lease agreement, and everything I had been trying to suppress came flooding back." "Why did not you reach out immediately?" "Fear. The same fear that stopped me from kissing you that night on your porch." He smiled ruefully. "I am apparently not as brave as I like to think I am. So I came up with that ridiculous plan to get your attention through the window, hoping you would make the first move." Jasmine laughed, the sound breaking some of the tension. "Your plan worked a little too well. No complaints from me." His expression turned serious again. "But I need to know something. This morning, when you were watching me, was it just curiosity? Or was there something more?" She could lie, could downplay her feelings, and keep herself protected. But Brandon had just been completely vulnerable with her, and he deserved the same honesty in return. "It started as surprise at seeing you, then curiosity about your life. But by the end of that first week," she met his eyes steadily. "It was attraction, Brandon. Pure, undeniable attraction. You are not the boy I remember. You have become this confident, successful, incredibly attractive man, and yes, I was watching you every morning because I wanted to." The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Say that again? Which part?" "The part about wanting me." Jasmine felt bold, empowered by his confession and the wine warming her blood. "I want you, Brandon Hayes. I have probably wanted you since that summer 8 years ago. I was just too scared to admit it." He stood up abruptly. For a moment, Jasmine thought she had said too much, pushed too hard. Then he was pulling out his wallet, throwing down bills that were probably tripled the cost of their meal, and extending his hand to her. "We are leaving," he said, his voice rough. "We have not finished eating. I do not care about the food. I care about getting you somewhere private where I can finally kiss you the way I have been dreaming about for 8 years." The kiss that changed everything. They barely made it back to their building. The car ride was silent but electric, Brandon's hand finding hers and holding tight. When they reached the elevator, he pulled her inside, and the moment the doors closed, he backed her against the wall. "Tell me to stop," he said, his hands on either side of her head, his body close but not quite touching. "Tell me if this is not what you want." "I want this," Jasmine said, her hands coming up to grip his shirt. "I want you. I have wanted you for so long." That was all the permission he needed. Brandon closed the distance between them, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that was everything she had imagined and more. It was not gentle or tentative. It was 8 years of longing compressed into a single moment. His hands moved to her waist, pulling her against him, and she melted into his embrace. The elevator dinged, announcing their floor, but neither of them moved. They stayed locked together, kissing as if making up for lost time, until the doors started to close again. Brandon reached out blindly to stop them, never breaking the kiss, and somehow guided them out into the hallway. "Your place or mine?" he murmured against her lips. "Closer," was all she managed to say. His apartment was closer. He fumbled with his keys, his hands shaking slightly, while Jasmine pressed kisses to his neck. Finally, the door swung open, and they stumbled inside together. Brandon's apartment was beautiful. All clean lines and natural light, with architectural drawings on the walls and plants in the windows. But Jasmine barely registered any of it because he was kissing her again, beckoning her toward the couch, his hands sliding under her sweater. They collapsed onto the cushions in a tangle of limbs. Brandon pulled back just long enough to look at her, really look at her, his expression full of wonder. "You are so beautiful," he said, brushing hair back from her face. "I used to watch you sometimes when we were teenagers and think about how lucky I was to know you, to have you in my life." "You have me now," she whispered, "completely." His kiss this time was slower, deeper, full of promise. His hands explored respectfully, always checking, always making sure she was comfortable. When he lifted her sweater over her head, he paused to trace the line of her collarbone with his lips. When she unbuttoned his shirt, he shivered under her touch. "Jasmine," he breathed against her neck. "We should talk about this. About what it means." She pulled back to look at him. His hair was messy from her fingers, his lips swollen from kissing, and his eyes held both desire and uncertainty. "What do you want it to mean?" she asked. "Everything. I want you in my life not just as my friend, not just for tonight. I want to build something real with you. Something that lasts." He cupped her face in his hands. "I want to do this right. No more hiding, no more fear. Just us, figuring this out together." Tears pricked Jasmine's eyes. "I want that too. I want all of it. And we take this slow," he said, even though his body was clearly protesting the idea. "We have waited 8 years. We can wait a little longer to do this right." Jasmine wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that waiting was overrated, and that she had never wanted anyone the way she wanted him right now. But the fact that he cared enough to pause, to make sure they were building something real, rather than just giving in to physical desire, made her love him even more. Wait. Love. The realization hit her like a wave. She was in love with Brandon Hayes, had probably been in love with him for years, without fully acknowledging it. And now, sitting here in his arms, she knew with absolute certainty that this was real. This was worth protecting. "Okay," she agreed. "We take this slow. But I am staying tonight. Just holding you. Is that allowed?" His smile was radiant. "That is more than allowed. That is perfect." They spent the rest of the evening curled up on his couch, talking about everything and nothing. He showed her his architectural drawings, explained his vision for making cities more livable. She showed him her design portfolio on her phone. He praised every piece with genuine enthusiasm. As the night grew late, Brandon led her to his bedroom. It was simple and masculine, with that same floor-to-ceiling window she'd been watching him through for weeks. They changed in his bathroom, him lending her a t-shirt to sleep in. And when they climbed into bed together, it felt natural, right? Jasmine fit perfectly against his chest. His arm wrapped around her waist, her head resting over his heart. She could hear it beating steady and strong, and the sound lulled her into contentment. "Hey, Jasmine." Brandon's voice was sleepy. "Thank you for watching me through that window. Thank you for giving fate a chance to bring us back together." She smiled against his chest. "Thank you for forgetting your towel." His laugh rumbled through her. "Best decision I ever made." As Jasmine drifted off to sleep in Brandon's arms, she thought about how strange life could be. How a burst pipe and a forgotten towel and a series of morning observations had led her here, to exactly where she was meant to be. With exactly who she was meant to be with, tomorrow would bring new challenges. They would have to navigate what this meant for their friendship, set boundaries, figure out how to build a relationship from the foundation of years apart. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, she was exactly where she belonged. Morning after morning, Jasmine woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the warm weight of an arm draped across her waist. For a disoriented moment, she wondered where she was. Then memory returned in a pleasant rush. Brandon's apartment. Brandon's bed. Brandon pressed against her back, his breathing deep and even with sleep. She smiled, contentment flooding through her. This was real. Everything from last night had actually happened. The confession, the kiss, the decision to build something meaningful together. As if sensing her wakefulness, Brandon stirred behind her. His arm tightened, pulling her closer, and he pressed a sleepy kiss to her shoulder. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice rough with sleep, in a way that made her stomach flip. "Good morning." She turned in his arms to face him. His hair was adorably messy, and he had the beginnings of stubble shadowing his jaw. She reached up to trace it with her fingers. "How did you sleep?" "Best sleep I have had in years." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "You, same." She hesitated, then asked, "Do you have any regrets? About last night, about us?" Brandon's expression turned serious. He shifted so he was propped up on one elbow, looking down at her. "Not a single one." "Do you?" "No, I just wanted to make sure this was not just caught up in the moment, you know? That in the morning light, you still feel the same way." "Jasmine Parker," he said her full name with gentle emphasis. "I have felt this way for 8 years. Morning light does not change that. If anything, having you here in my bed, seeing you first thing when I open my eyes, only confirms what I already knew. This is right. We are right." Relief and joy washed over her. She pulled him down for a kiss. Morning breath be damned. It was soft and sweet, a promise rather than passion. When they separated, Brandon glanced at the clock on his nightstand and groaned. "I have a meeting at 9. I need to shower and get ready." "Me too." Presentation follow-up at 9:30. Jasmine started to sit up, but he pulled her back down. "Stay for coffee first. I will make it properly this time, not just drink it while standing by a window." She laughed. "Deal." Friends and family over the next few weeks, Jasmine and Brandon fell into a comfortable rhythm. They had dinner together most nights, alternating between their apartments. They kept their relationship quiet initially, wanting to build a strong foundation before inviting outside opinions and pressures. But eventually, they knew they needed to tell people. Starting with their families, Jasmine called her mother first, her hands shaking slightly as she dialed. Her parents had loved Brandon when they were growing up, had been disappointed when the friendship faded after he moved to Seattle. "Mom, I have something to tell you. Are you pregnant?" Her mother asked immediately, because of course she did. "No, why would that be your first thought?" "You sound nervous." "You only sound nervous when something big is happening." "So, pregnant, engaged, or moving to another country?" "Which is it?" "None of those. I am dating someone." "Oh, that is wonderful, honey." "Who is he? Is it serious?" "When can we meet him?" Jasmine took a deep breath. "It is Brandon." "Brandon Hayes." Silence on the other end. Then Brandon. "Our Brandon?" "Your Brandon from childhood." "Yes." We ran into each other. Well, more accurately, we are neighbors now. And we reconnected, and Mom, it is serious. Very serious. Her mother's squeal of delight was so loud, Jasmine had to hold the phone away from her ear. I knew it. I told your father years ago that you two were meant to be together. Oh, this is the best news. When can we see you both? We need to have dinner. I need to hug that boy, man, young man. The call with her father was shorter but equally enthusiastic. He simply said, about time, and then asked when they were coming to visit. Brandon's call with his parents went similarly well. His mother cried happy tears, and his father made some joke about Brandon finally getting his head out of his career long enough to see what was right in front of him. Telling their friends was more complicated. Jasmine's best friend Rachel was skeptical at first. Are you sure this is not just nostalgia? Rachel asked over lunch. You had a bad breakup? He is familiar and safe. Maybe you are just seeking comfort. It is not nostalgia, Jasmine said firmly. Yes, we have history. Yes, he is familiar. But Rachel, what I feel for him is not about the past. It is about who we both are now, the people we have become. Rachel studied her for a long moment, then her expression softened. You are glowing. I have never seen you like this, not even with Tyler. That is because Tyler was never right. Brandon is. Then I am happy for you. Just promise me you will be careful. Mixing friendship and romance can be complicated, I know. But he is worth the risk. The first real fight, everything was going perfectly. Too perfectly, Jasmine sometimes thought. They had been together for 6 weeks, and while they had occasional small disagreements, nothing serious had tested their relationship yet. Then Brandon got offered a major project, corporate headquarters in San Francisco that would require him to be on site for 3 months, possibly longer. It was a career-defining opportunity, the kind of project architects dreamed about. He told her about it over dinner at his place, his excitement palpable as he described the building. The design challenges, the potential for his firm. That is incredible, Jasmine said, genuinely happy for him. When do you start? 2 weeks. I would need to be in San Francisco by the 1st of the month. His excitement dimmed slightly. It is 3 months minimum. Could be longer if there are complications. The reality of it hit her. 3 months apart, just when they were building something real. Oh, I have not accepted yet, he said quickly. I wanted to talk to you first. Brandon, you have to take it. This is your dream project. You are my dream, Jasmine. The project is just work. Do not do that. She set down her fork, frustration rising. Do not minimize your career for me. It is not fair to either of us. I am not minimizing it. I'm prioritizing us over work, but it should not be a choice. Her voice rose despite her effort to stay calm. You should be able to have both, your career and a relationship. How? If I take this project, we barely see each other for 3 months. We just started this. How do we maintain it from 1,000 miles apart? Same way people in long-distance relationships always do. Video calls, texts, visits when possible. We make it work because we want it to work. Brandon stood up, running his hand through his hair in that gesture she knew meant he was stressed. What if it does not work? What if the distance is too much? And we fall apart like we did before? So you would rather not try at all? Would rather give up on your career to avoid the possibility of us failing? That is not what I am saying. Then what are you saying? Jasmine stood too, facing him across the table. Because it sounds like you do not think we are strong enough to survive a few months apart. I think relationships require presence, attention. How can we build something when I am in another city? We have phones. We have weekends. Other couples manage it all the time. We are not other couples. His frustration finally boiled over. We have already lost 8 years because of distance and fear. I do not want to risk losing more. So your solution is to give up opportunities? To play it safe and stay small? Jasmine felt tears prick her eyes. The Brandon I knew always dreamed big. When did you become so afraid? The words hung in the air between them, sharp and cutting. She saw them land, saw the hurt flash across his face. Maybe, he said quietly. I became afraid when I finally got the thing I wanted most and realized I could lose it. Jasmine's anger deflated, replaced by understanding and sadness. "Brandon, I love you." It was the first time she had said the words out loud, and even in the middle of their fight, they felt right. But love is not supposed to be a cage. It is supposed to be wings. "I will not let you clip yours for me." The resolution they did not speak for 3 days. 3 miserable days where Jasmine threw herself into work and tried not to check her phone every 5 minutes. 3 days where she questioned everything. Wondered if they were fundamentally incompatible despite their feelings for each other. On the 4th day, she came home from work to find Brandon sitting outside her apartment door. He looked tired, rumpled, and achingly familiar. "Hey," he said, standing as she approached. "Hey," she unlocked her door. "Want to come in?" He sat on her couch, careful space between them. Brandon spoke first. "I talked to my parents and my therapist." "Yes, I have a therapist," he added when she looked surprised. "Started seeing her after we reconnected because I wanted to understand why I kept sabotaging good things in my life." "What did she say?" "That I have abandonment issues from my dad, leaving when I was a kid, that I push people away before they can leave me, and that I was doing exactly that with you by refusing the San Francisco project." Jasmine's heart ached for him. She reached over, taking his hand. "I am not going to leave you, Brandon. Not because of distance, not because of career opportunities. I am in this. I know. At least my logical brain knows. The scared part still worries." "What?" He squeezed her hand. "But I am working on it, and you were right. I was letting fear make me small. I am sorry for how I said it. That was harsh. It was true, and I needed to hear it." He shifted closer. "I accepted the project, but I also negotiated terms. I will be in San Francisco during the week, but I fly back here every weekend. The firm is paying for it as part of my compensation package." "Brandon, that is going to be exhausting, I know. But you are worth being exhausted for, and it is only 3 months. We can survive 3 months." "We can," she agreed. "We survived 8 years apart. 3 months with regular contact is nothing." He pulled her into his arms, and she went willingly, breathing in his familiar scent. "I love you," he murmured against her hair. "I should have said it before. I love you, Jasmine. Make me want to be braver." "I love you too, and I am sorry for pushing. I just do not want you to have regrets. My only regret would be not fighting for us." For this, he pulled back to look at her. "We are going to make mistakes. We are going to have more fights. But as long as we keep choosing each other, we will be okay." 3 months later, the San Francisco project ended up taking 4 months instead of 3, but they made it work. Every Friday evening, Brandon flew home. Every Sunday night, he reluctantly left again. They video called every day, sometimes just to sit in comfortable silence while they worked on separate projects. It was not easy. There were lonely nights and missed dinners and moments when the distance felt unbearable. But they persevered, and somehow, the time apart made their relationship stronger rather than weaker. When Brandon finally came home for good, Jasmine was waiting at the airport. She saw him emerge from the gate, looking tired but lighting up the moment he spotted her. He dropped his carry-on and swept her into his arms, kissing her right there in the middle of the terminal while people flowed around them. "I am never taking another out-of-town project," he declared. She laughed. "Yes, you will. But I will be here when you come back. Always. Always." 6 months after that, they were having coffee on Brandon's balcony one Saturday morning, a routine they had established. Jasmine was scrolling through her phone while Brandon sketched something on a notepad. "I have been thinking," he said, not looking up from his drawing. "Dangerous activity? Should I be worried?" Smiled. "Maybe. I am thinking about our living situation." Jasmine set down her phone. They had maintained separate apartments, even after his return from San Francisco. It felt practical, gave them each space. But secretly, she missed him on the nights they spent apart. "What about it? I want you to move in with me, or I move in with you, or we find a new place together. I do not care which. I just want to stop. Splitting our time between 2 apartments when we both know where we really want to be, which is together. Always together." He finally looked up, and his expression was completely open, vulnerable. "I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to fall asleep next to you every night. when our clothes mixed in the same closet and our dishes in the same sink. That is very domestic of you. I am a domestic kind of guy when I am in love. He set down his notepad. What do you say? Jasmine thought about her apartment, about the bedroom window that faced his penthouse, about that first morning when she had accidentally seen him and everything had changed, about how far they had come from that awkward, embarrassing moment. I say yes, but I want to find a new place, something that is ours, not yours or mine. His smile could have lit up the city. Deal. 1 year anniversary, they found a perfect apartment. A 2-bedroom with huge windows and enough space for both a home office and a design studio. Moving in together was chaotic and wonderful, full of compromises about furniture and arguments about which kitchen gadgets were essential. On their 1 year anniversary, Brandon cooked her dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and wine, the same meal they had eaten that first night after he caught her watching him. After dinner, he pulled her onto the balcony. The city sparkled below them, and the night air was warm with approaching summer. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Jasmine's breath caught. The box was the wrong size for a ring, which was both relieving and disappointing. Inside was a key on a simple chain. It is the key to my architecture studio, Brandon explained. I want you to have access to my workspace, my creative space. I want you to be part of every part of my life.